Mr. Chairman. First, Mr. Ratner, I appreciate your laying out sort of a factual context. And as Stephen Colbert has pointed out, that facts sometimes have a liberal bias, and I want to give your colleagues on the panel an opportunity to contest what you have. I don't want to do it now. I don't want to surprise them, but I would welcome in writing where you take exception with Mr. Ratner's assessment, which I personally find compelling. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record some information about what's going to happen in my state with something we haven't talked about much with your tax bill, the elimination of the individual mandate, which is going to cause increased premiums and have a ripple effect throughout the economy and people that I represent. And this, I don't have time to go into this now, but I would like it to be part of the record because that's part of the problem that we're facing in an important part of American economy and how it's hitting people that isn't reflected in some of the rosy scenarios that we've heard.
Without objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I was listening to your introduction in terms of the 6 years of hearings and the work we've done, I must confess that I'm a little more partial to the assessment of my friend Mr. Doggett, because we had the largest transfer of wealth in our nation's history, and I don't know if we were here 18 hours, 23 hours, I don't remember. It was long. It was clear that this was being written while we were deliberating it. And I was one of the people that said, you don't really know what you're voting on. We didn't know that we were voting on approving tax-free farming, which required some adjustment. And we're going to find things on a daily basis. I'm meeting with attorneys and accountants in my district and businesses that are trying to sort it out. This wasn't reform. This added complexity with a tax cut. And we're going to be paying a price for that. But one of the things that just continues to frustrate me, if we're concerned about economic growth, if we're concerned about reducing the deficit, strengthening American communities, we have trillions of dollars tossed around, massive increase in deficit, $1 trillion a year for as far as the eye can see, and we got very little out of it in terms of real fundamental problems. I've raised the point of infrastructure before this committee. You may recall, Mr. Chairman, I take seriously the responsibility the Ways and Means Committee has as the committee that's responsible for funding American infrastructure. And it's been a steady refrain. We need to own up to our responsibilities. And there are economic studies that show that if we were able to boost that, it's going to reduce the deficit, it's going to increase employment with jobs that aren't going to be outsourced, and the benefit will be across the board in this country. This committee has had 386 hearings since my Republican friends took control. We have had one hearing on infrastructure finance, and Democrats were given one witness for 5 minutes who came from the American Trucking Association to make the case that we ought to meet our responsibilities. Now, I don't know what team is going to be in charge next year, but I hope if it is our team that we'll take the time to invest a couple weeks to hear from the people who build, maintain, operate, and depend upon America's infrastructure. This is Infrastructure Week, and they're wandering the halls, lamenting the fact that we haven't met our obligation. And I hope that we would be able to have the president of the Chamber of Commerce that's recently proposed a 25-cent gas tax increase, even larger than mine, the American Trucking Association, who points out that truckers put half the money into the trust fund, and they want the revenues raised, and engineers, and organized labor, and local government, and businesses that have been telling us they depend on infrastructure, and UPS, where it costs them $50 million a year for each 5-minute delay. I hope we step up and do our job, because we certainly haven't.